Welcome back to the Midlands Rugby Podcast. Phil, how you doing?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Slightly later tonight. Our guest had to do his hair while he's turned up wearing a cap. So that was, that was good half an hour. Good half an hour. So those on YouTube, we have got a guest with us today. This is Rugby McGeechan. He's a kind of royal family almost of the rugby world. Grew up in Leeds, playing both league and union. Retired playing in 09, began coaching. Been coaching at coached at Sheffield, done South Yorkshire age groups, coached Wolverhampton Wasps in rugby league, various. I mean, all around Yorkshire. There is nowhere that you have not touched with your rugby knowledge. To be fair, by the looks of things, now you've moved to Tupton, a team that we know well around this area, where your DOR. And I did a little bit. Oh, and one thing I really want to get into later as well is the coaching of Chef Eagles' learning disability squad as well. So that'd be really cool to tap into. But as I do with a lot of the guests, well, a lot of them that I don't know, I Google them just to see if I can find anything as well. And a budding DJ, is DJing still a big thing?
Yeah, not as big as what it used to be, but I'm still plodding along.
Yeah, we've had one or two DJs on. Involved in rugby, but not the big blonde posh one. But Rob, let us know, how did you get into rugby?
Well, funnily enough, being the son of Ian McGeechan, Sir Ian McGeechan, I've got to call him now.
Is that what you have to address him as?
Yeah.
Tough Christmas, that.
I have to curtsy my mum because she's a lady now as well. So. But yeah, no, growing up with him as a dad, that kind of sort of really, got me into rugby. My earliest memories is being in Edinburgh for Scotland internationals, and also as well being going into the changing rooms just after he'd finished playing and he started coaching his club Headingley in Leeds. And one of my earliest memories, again, is being in the changing room, sat on the physio's bed, watching him give a team talk before a club match. So naturally, I was always going to play rugby, I think, and I did. Growing up in Leeds, I predominantly played league. It wasn't until probably 11, 12 when I started, playing union, even though I'd spent pretty much all my childhood going up to Scotland to go and watch with my dad, to go and watch games when he was scouting for Scotland, or going to like clubs in London and doing a bit of a Marcelo Bielsa, going and spying on players, especially English players when they were up and coming Calcutta Cup game. He'd go down and have a sneak peek at how players were playing for the club. So that would be my Saturdays, and then Sundays I was on the South Stand at Headingley watching Leeds Rhino. Well, the Leeds RL as they were called then, Leeds Rhinos now.
No, it's not a bad way to spend your weekends growing up, is it? To be fair, just going around watching big blokes, probably have a few scraps, and then doing it with your old man by your side. Must be great fun. So where did you first play? Did you play at Headingley when you first started doing union?
So I played for West Park Leeds, or West Park Bramhope as they were known then. So they were a few miles down the road from where I lived. So I started playing for them. It was a bit of a turbulent time because about the time I started, I just started getting into playing rugby union as well as playing league as well, and then rugby union went professional, and then all of a sudden we're bouncing down to Northampton. But just prior to that, I was working it out between the ages of 13 and 16. I lived in Leeds, then Edinburgh, then back in Leeds, and then Northampton.
And there's only one of those where you'd actually like to live.
We won't offend anyone by guessing which one it was.
So I just started getting into the swing of playing union, and then all of a sudden whisked up to Edinburgh for a year. So I played and there was, no rugby league there, so I was playing for the school rugby union. Back down to Leeds, back playing rugby league, both at school and for a club, and then also playing for West Park, and then moved to Northampton, and played, purely playing union down there.
It's not bad, is it? How was it when you were at West Park and you were playing and your coaches are trying to tell you what to do and they look to the left and there's Sir Ian? Do they just kind of go, "Oh, we'll just let Rob do what he wants"? Rob,
Yeah.
that's fine.
It wasn't too bad because my dad was always busy, so he never really came to watch any of my games. I think he came to watch one game against West when I played for West Park. And he's been, since 2009, he's been to 2 games where I've been coaching. So he's quite lucky in that respect, because certainly around that time, he was quite well known within the rugby community and instantly recognisable. So it was obviously quite a blessing, because I certainly felt it when I went to when I moved to Edinburgh, because what I started to find was I was never Rob McGeechan. I was Ian McGeechan's son.
Yeah,
and that actually was quite a burden to carry. And I used to feel terrible before games. I'd be so nervous before games, and I'd be, almost frantic about, what happens if I knock on? What happens if I don't give that pass?
yeah.
Because everyone, especially, living in Edinburgh just after they'd won the Grand Slam and had a really successful World Cup campaign, everyone kind of expected me to be as good as, if not better than my old man. So
Yeah.
it actually hindered me, I think, as a player. And, there was a point where actually I gave up playing for a few years, just purely because I fell out of love with the game because of that pressure that I was faced with.
Yeah, and you kind of hear that. And I think it was probably Beck's. No, it was Beckham. He was talking about how he felt for his lads when they wanted just to go and play football with their mates. They were expected to be Beckham version 2.0. And it just doesn't happen because it takes a lot of effort. It's and lots of time and lots of practice and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, like you said, it was about how did you get past that? Was there a point where you just went, you know what? If I want to do it, I'm going to do it my way. I'm just going to accept it.
Yeah. So, I took a break out of the game, and it was one of those things. I missed the social aspect of the game, and that's something that drew me back. And I was lucky enough; I was able to continue playing a bit of league. And that got me back into it. And obviously, playing rugby league, people don't know what Ian McGeechan is. So it was quite unique in that respect. And I was quite lucky in that I was able to, play the game. And ultimately, I just wanted to get back to playing both chords. So, yeah, I just sort of went, do you know what? I am who I am. I can't help that. I can only be as good as what I can be.
Yeah.
And if people don't like it, tough.
Yeah, 100%. So you retired from playing in 2009, went into coaching. Was it a hard decision to stop playing and start coaching, or was it relatively easy by that point?
It was relatively easy, I think. I'd had a lot of injuries, really badly dogged with a dodgy left leg. I look at my medical history and everything is just left leg, left Achilles tendon. I've never done anything with my right leg. It's always been my left leg. And it was just getting to the point where, I just thought enough's enough. I'm in my 30s now. I've had a decent crack at it. And, at the time I was playing for Sheffield Tigers. So I thought, yeah, I'll just park it. And I sort of didn't really have much of a interest, I suppose, in coaching. It wasn't something I actively went, right, I'm finished playing. What can I do now? Let's go and coach.
Right.
it was one of these ones where I'd literally just been made redundant from my job.
Really?
So I was job hunting, and what I wanted to do was I had a little bit of spare time, and I thought, do you know what I want to do? I want to do some volunteering. What can I do? And I reached out to Sheffield RUFC, and they said, yeah, come down. We need all the help we can get. And I'm like, walking down thinking, oh, brilliant, going to put me with the Colts or something like that. And he went, right, you're going to do, we always need an under sevens coach every year because we drag somebody in and then next year they move up to the under eight. So we always need an under sevens coach every year. So guess what? You're under sevens coach. And I was like, great.
Exactly what I've come back to do. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did that. Progressed up with it to the under eights, and really enjoyed it. And it was one of those where when you could see things happening, you could see something click in the child, and you could see that light bulb moment, and that was really rewarding. And something that you don't really tend to see when you coach in the adult game. And obviously to basically go from coaching under nines, under sevens, under eights. I spent a season working with South Yorkshire as well, doing the under 13s, and then a relocation. I've secured a new job by this point, and a relocation to Birmingham came, and then next thing you know, I'm working with Birmingham Solihull's first team. So to go from
quite a jump. What level were Birmingham Solihull at the time?
They were level 3, so they were in national at the time.
Yeah.
So
there is I'll just do this on the side because I've got some time. I want to get back to the game. Oh shit. I know what Phil's answer would be. Well, probably neither. But would you rather do seniors or minis and juniors coaching?
I've done my time in minis and juniors during my 20s. It's either seniors or like really young. So like pre-teenagers. The teenager period is by far and away the worst period to coach.
Is it not just the worst period?
Well, yeah, as a parent, as a coach, as a teacher, whatever, that's when they're the hardest.
Yeah. What about you, Rob?
It's really funny actually you asked that, because kind of sort of literally from that point onwards I've always been coaching first teams to coaching seniors, but recently what we're doing with Tupton is I wanted to kind of sort of get more cohesion, and what I found, and I think it's quite common across a lot of rugby clubs up and down the country, is that it's almost like it's two sections. So you've got your minis and your juniors, you've got your senior section, and they train on different nights, they play on different days, and there's no connection. But yet all these clubs have this one club, but then they're split into two divisions. So what I've been doing is I've actually been working on where we've actually brought the club, we've brought it in as one club rather than having the two sections. So we've done family days where the kids have, the kids in the mini junior section, they've played on the pitch at half time. They've been guards of honour and mascots during games. And we've also brought in where obviously we can't do it with the under sevens and the under eights, but what we're doing with the under 16s, the kind of sort of the Colts age groups, is I've moved them to training with the seniors.
Yeah,
and you can't, even though you're training, your favourite age group, Phil, the teenagers, you do still get that light bulb moment every now and again, where something starts to click, and the kids are really bought into it because they get to see how the seniors play and train, and they get to, you know, they feel much more involved. So I know I've gone around the houses a little bit, but I'd probably say seniors. But I am enjoying doing a lot of work with the under 16s as well. And it almost, you know, really is just like one squad now.
Yeah, we've been doing something similar for a good 5-6 years now at Pavs, and it has helped a lot of the younger lads develop a lot quicker. I think they get quite a wake up call quite quickly, because touch doesn't actually mean touch at our training sessions. So I think they wake up quite quickly, and it switches them on. But I think there's that little bit, like you say, there is still a light bulb moment, but it's not such a skill or a technique that they learn, but like an intensity level. And that's something we're trying to really hammer at the moment. You know, we've got a pretty strong under 17 squad that will do well next year when they're senior academy or senior Colts. And then we've got an under 16 squad that starts training with us towards the end of February. So they've had about a month with us now, 2 months with us now, sorry. And that really helps generate them and galvanizes them ready for pre-season next year. But again, it's like you have to just get rid of their attitude. And some of them rock up with some absolute attitude on their shoulders, and it literally gets knocked out of them quite quickly in our section.
But I think you're right. I think there is the element of, and I'd not really thought about it until you said we're the one club, but we've got a Saturday club and a Sunday club, because that tends to be where it goes to. But I think where we are at the minute, I don't know how other clubs are, but the gap does feel like it's not as wide as it used to be. It takes quite a while, but I know there's a lot of lads that will. I mean, they've got kids in the minis and juniors, but they'll go up and they'll help out with coaching every now and again, or they'll just chat away to people. And I think, especially some of the first team lads, because it's just a group of mates and we're just playing rugby with our mates, I don't think we as players often realise what it means to the younger ones if a first team player or even just a senior player has come to help with coaching. I think it's probably something that across the board and across loads of clubs that probably need to be more aware of. Fucking hell, we went serious again. We've been doing that a lot since we changed our name. Since we've from Midlands, we've been a little bit more serious. We could go to our default of let's talk about drinking rugby stories.
Yeah.
If I know anyone that's going to have some, Rob, you must have seen some sights in your time. What we can go for one of yours or one you saw when you were with your old man, but with the amount of clubs you've coached at in there and so on, you must have seen various different stuff going on in the changing rooms.
Yeah. So not necessarily in kind of sort of the last, trying to think now, past 9 years, because you know, a lot of that time I've been in, you know, elite level academy, so working with, you know, Yorkshire County and Yorkshire Carnegie's academy, which ties in with Leeds Rhinos as well. So you don't tend to get much tomfoolery. I'll choose my words carefully. And I mean, I've tried to prize stuff out of my dad from when he was playing. The best thing I got was the 74 Lions tour. They were setting off fire extinguishers in the hotel. And at one point, I can't remember who it was, but apparently it was gaffer tape to the bed whilst he slept. And they moved his bed and put it into the lift, and it was going up and down all night. And there was another example where one of the players was on the first floor. I know, you know, out of his window there was a big kind of sort of balcony, went over the reception area. And apparently the lads broke into his room and rebuilt his room perfectly, recreated his room, but out, you know, they put everything out the window and they put it on this like canopy thing above the main doors to the hotel. But he's a little bit coy. He never quite, you know, you never quite get much out of him. With regards to myself, I think probably the funniest moment, I suppose you could call it funniest or horrific moment, I think for me was went on tour with Sheffield Tigers, and we went to Antwerp, and we got there, and we'd obviously been drinking heavily on the Eurostar all the way over. We got there, and I found a bar. I'd gone off on my own. Everyone else had gone to find a bar, and I'd gone for a little walk, and I found another bar. It was one where you had to pay to get in, and there was a number of ladies in there. So I was obviously very, very pleased with my find, and I went back to let all the other guys know what I'd found, and a few of them came with me, and we ended up going in there, and I was just, you know, having a few drinks and everything else, and we're having a chat with some of these ladies, and then I decided I was going to leave, and I got up to leave, and the staff wouldn't, you know, the security wouldn't let me leave, and they were saying I had to pay this fine. I was like, how much was it? They were like €300. They wouldn't let me out, and they were like, well, phone the police. I said, well, phone them then. You know, you're basically holding me hostage. And the Belgian police turned up and basically forced me to pay this fine.
What was the fine for?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it was. I'd just gone in there and just had conversations with these women. I think they presumed that I was going to pay them to do things, and I just went in there and had a chat with them. So presumably it was for wasting their time.
I think that might have been just English tax, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've had that a few times when I've been on the continent with a group of lads. It's the tax. We have had a former quite high-profile professional rugby player on here talk about his first tour to Canada, where on the first night he spent all of his fund on some ladies in a bar. When a certain sum assured didn't have to pay anything. There's always stories which I like to listen to, but I often think listening to some of the stuff on the lines with the old man and professionals, and then going down to the levels that you've played, the third team levels that I've rocked in and about. And stood out at. I'd like to add in, but it's just the same type of story wherever you go. And that Antwerp story could easily have been Skegness, and no one would have batted an eyelid.
Yeah.
So, like I said at the start, one thing I'd love to touch on is the coaching you've been doing with Sheffield Eagles and the learning disability squad. How did you get into that? And just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So my daughter started playing for Tupton in the minis and juniors, and she progressed through the age group. She's gone under 7s up to under 9s. And I started taking her to go watch Leeds Rhinos women, and she got really inspired by it, and you could see, you know, she understood, you know, up until that point she'd only been to watch rugby matches where men were playing, and you know, she's only seen the men's game on TV. So to be able to actually sort of see, actually, I can, you know, I'm a girl, and all I'm seeing at the top level, or, you know, adult level, is men. Why am I doing this? So, you know, so to be able to see, you know, the Leeds Rhinos women was you know, absolutely pivotal for her, and it really reignited a passion for rugby. And last year, it was about this time last year, Andrea Dobson launched, off the back of launching the Sheffield Eagles women, they launched a girls team,
right?
Which, you know, the idea was that my daughter was going to go and train with them through the summer,
Yeah.
and then go back to under 10s rugby union in the winter. And it was because it's an all girls team, she's got really bought into it and she prefers it. And now she's saying, well, look, I just want to play. I don't want to play mixed rugby. I'm happy playing rugby league. I'm happy playing with the girls. So I'm not going to push her into that. But because of that involvement, I've also got in touch with the Learning Disabilities Rugby League coach, who I actually helped out a good few years ago when he was a teacher at a school.
Right.
I went in and did some rugby sessions with him and the kids. And his son is disabled. He has a learning disability, and he got him because of his passion for rugby, and he knew Andrea pretty well. They've got him involved with coach, setting up or being kind of sort of involved in setting up this learning disabilities team. And so I've only just started. It's in its second season now, and I've just started getting involved, off the back of it. Because so we train every Friday. We train at Olympic Legacy Park, which is where Sheffield Eagles play.
Yeah.
The training sessions take place. We have half the pitch. The Sheffield Eagles men's team have the other half of the pitch. It's fantastic because we're dealing with people who might not necessarily, because of their disabilities, might not have a passion or an outlet or a hobby that the way it's grown, and we've got mixed gender, we've got male, female, young, old, it doesn't matter. It's non-contact, it's basically touch rugby. And it's giving a lot of people that might not have a great deal, hobbies and interest wise. It's giving them something to make them feel inclusive. And it goes back to that coaching the kids and the light bulb moment. It really is. If you compare it, it's almost like coaching an under 9s, under 10s team playing tag. But you really get that reward when you see the light bulb moments go off, and you see actually they start to understand and take on board the feedback and the coaching. It does come with its challenges. We have to be very mindful that in everyone learns things in different ways and in different speeds. When you're dealing with 20 people with learning disabilities, you're even more conscious of that. So you've got to be really careful about how you're coming across, and reaffirming and kind of sort of having to. So I think the best way to describe it, you've got to be, communication is the key, and not everyone communicates, with learning disabilities in the same way. So you've got to adapt and create a different approach to. And we've got like 20 odd players, so it's almost like 20 different ways to coach 20 different people.
Yeah, with 20, completely different additional needs as well, I imagine.
It's a really difficult thing. I was community rugby leader at Nottingham for a couple of years while I was playing there, and we had two disability schools that we went to once a month, I think.
Yeah.
One over in Grantham and one in Mansfield. And it's so difficult because not only are you dealing with people who struggle to learn and whatever, but they're all at different stages as well. So you can communicate with one group in one way, communicate, and you're basically doing like 4 sessions at the same time, and it's a real tough balancing act. Yes. And you're right, there is like a really nice point when they get something, because you realise actually they've achieved something, and for them it's a big step. But it is. I remember it being so difficult. The one over at Grantham was the kids were actually. It was a reward, so they had to like do certain things, and then they'd get the session. So some weeks I'd have like 30, and then other weeks I'd have 2. It was like a bit of a rant. Like no point in playing anything until you got there. But I remember this one lad, and he obviously had lots of issues, but it was just ADHD was probably one of the things that affects me the most, and he couldn't stand still. So I got to the point where I'd let him hold a ball while I was trying to explain things, just so he had something to, play with his hands. And then I realised actually that's not working, because now he's going to start bouncing it or kicking it. So I got him to hold 3 balls like that, and then he couldn't do anything. Like he thought it was funny, but he knew he couldn't do anything. So he'd stand there and try and hold these 3 balls together constantly while I was talking. But things like that, it's just like it's totally different style of coaching to coaching men or even kids. It's like a different level of coaching, and I did find it really difficult. Luckily enough, the guy who I took over from left me with loads of good drills and information and stuff, and very much pre-warned me about the school in Grantham, because there was a variety of people there. But no, I did enjoy it for the 2 years I did that. It is a totally different kettle of fish.
And it's different, isn't it? Because the outcome of coaching seniors, or even to a certain extent kids, is to make them into better rugby players, where necessarily that doesn't have to be the goal whether it's people with additional needs. It's you're a community and you're part of our community, that type of thing. I don't know what it's like in league, and probably slightly better with obviously the coverage over the Rob Burrows piece and so on, but in Union I don't feel like we're anywhere near clubs having it being a thing, in the sense of we've only just started to get some of these bigger clubs in the area with women's teams and girls teams, because for a while we had girls coming through, and then there was nothing past the age of 17 or whatever, or 16, and you're just like, you've lost these 40 young people that were going to be involved. So how, for someone that's involved, and I know you said it's been going 2 years.
Yeah, it's in its 2nd season now.
Yeah. What advice would you give if there's someone listening who is involved in a club that goes, yeah, let's actually, even if it's once a fortnight, whatever, just put on a session for people with additional needs?
It's a really good question. I think like I say, it's definitely worth doing it. And it's funny, I was talking to Andrea at Sheffield Eagles tonight, and she's getting, on average, an email a day.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. There's massive scope for the learning disabilities, simply on the basis that there's nothing else. Like I said, there's not a great deal for them to do. A lot of them lived in sheltered accommodation, sheltered housing, and they are, they're desperate, to do things and to leave, be able to partake in a sport and just be normal, just have a sense of normality about their lives, or something, for them to look forward to. So I definitely think, it's worthwhile looking into it. And I know that rugby league, in some respects, rugby league's light years ahead of Union, and in other ways, it's light years behind. And
yeah.
You look at, rugby union's been professional for under 30 years, but yeah, we've got women players on full-time contracts. You look at rugby league, and they've been professional for years, but it's only this year that certain women's clubs are paying match appearance fees.
Really?
Yeah. So, but I think league's light years ahead with regards to, you've got the wheelchair rugby league, you've got learning disabilities rugby league, you've got physical disabilities rugby league. and that's something that Sheffield Eagles is looking to start up probably from next season.
Cool.
Looking at a physical disabilities rugby league team.
Is it the case, Rob, that you think, and this is something I've always had a perceived thought around, is that rugby union is like a community per club. So you've got, your Paviors, your Tuptons, your Mansfields, blah, blah, blah. But then you go to rugby league, and I've been to a few grand finals, and not grand finals, I've been to a few of the ones where we play Australia, what are they called? Where the clubs play, Club World Championship.
Yeah.
Been to a few of those. But the whole of the rugby league community is one.
Mm.
And it just seems things like, your disabled rugby, your limited ability rugby, or whatever the phrase is, and your women's rugby league has been around a lot longer. Granted, it's not been paid at the women's level, but it just seems to me that rugby league has this better communal thing where everyone's incorporated, whereas rugby union, I think, is still quite segregated club by club. And my club only can do this because we can only do this. So we were really lucky with my sister's age group at rugby. They joined up with Leicester Forest East, who just so happened to have, 2 current England internationals in it. So that made a huge difference to the team. But very few teams are willing to do that. Like Mansfield are just up the road from us, literally less than 5 miles. But we will never link up with Mansfield and make a really strong team. Whereas in rugby union, I feel like, a couple of clubs would come together to put together a women's team, or put together a disabilities team, or whatever. Yeah. I don't know whether that's the case.
I mean, obviously, you've still got the tribalism and the club rivalries, and when we're talking about these disability teams, we're talking about these are connected to Super League clubs. So it's not going to be your grassroots club. But I do get your point. I think being trying to think of the best way to describe it, being the poor cousin of rugby union. I think there is that. I think there is that mentality.
Yeah.
It's us against them. Look at our la-di-da posh southern neighbours. But yeah, it's like I say, it's really growing for us at Sheffield Eagles, and I know it's really grown for other clubs, certainly in the Super League over the last few years. We're going to be going up to the Magic Weekend before playing Magic Weekend for the second season this year as well. So
is that this year then? Is that back at Newcastle, or is it Manchester?
Yeah, it's at St James's Park in Newcastle.
Yeah.
Oh, class.
Yeah. So I mean, that's great for these individuals. They play quite a lot. The curtain raisers will play at half time during the Sheffield Eagles games as well. So it's really good exposure, and I suppose not only is it giving them something to work with and a little bit of a hobby or just getting out of the house for a couple of hours a week. It's giving them not just skills on the rugby pitch as well, but it's giving them life skills and putting them in situations that they might not, never have been involved in. Who can say that they've played in front of 62,000 people at St James's Park? There's not many, is there?
No.
But no, it's moving in the right direction. And like I said, I think for me, there's a lot of people out there that want to, that do want to give it a try, and it's worth it's worthwhile looking at investing in and getting that sense of community and people being proud to be associated with a club.
Yeah.
I think finally, before we let you go, because I appreciate it's getting late, is like you say, you're DOR at Tupton now. It looks like you've had a good season this year, narrowly missed out promotion. by 3 points. Skeworth obviously got themselves promoted this year. Considering Derby can't get promoted, or Derby 2s, sorry, can't get promoted. Did you come up against Charlie Davies at Chesterfield Panthers? He's another podcast
/ DJ.
Yeah, and DJ.
He's the coach, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't see him this season, actually. I was actually in Thailand for one of our games against
All right.
Chesterfield this season.
I mean, Thailand's far nicer than Chesterfield. I've been to Thailand, but I have been to Chesterfield, so I can just assume it's probably nicer.
I guess my other question is, how's it been for you? Because you've got quite a few second teams in that league. How have you found sort of the second teams and what have they brought to the league?
Excuse me. So I think we've had a relatively good season. I think it's been my most successful season since being involved with the club since 2018, 2019. We narrowly missed out on promotion. There was a few games, you mentioned Keyworth and Chesterfield. Those were games where I think we should have won, and we didn't. We played Keyworth earlier in just before Christmas, and we were winning with, well into injury time, and they scored a drop goal last kick of the game to win it. And that's the 3 points that we missed out on. Promotion. Same against Chesterfield at home. Again, we were winning, and we conceded a daft penalty and they kicked it. And, we've gone from a 4 points to a losing bonus point. So again, there's the other three that would have guaranteed us promotion.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of others as well. I think Melbourne is away as well, that was a difficult one because we were winning 2 points up, 1 point up, well into injury time, and they scored last play of the game to win it. And we've gone from four to 1 point again. So there were some real positives to come out of this season. I think the cohesion between the seniors and the juniors was great. I sat down with the players. Got them to commit to what they wanted to achieve, how they were going to achieve it, and that became kind of sort of the core values for this season. We set ourselves a realistic target to achieve in relation to league points, and we beat that. We actually beat that with two league games left to go. It was obviously a very interesting season because I think seven. Was it seven? I think
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7.
Seven.
Good counting, Phil.
So seven. Having 7 second teams was always going to be a little. It was going into the unknown, and I definitely think it was a lot better than what we had the season before, which is where the RFU decided to shrink the leagues geographically. So we had an east-west split, but they didn't really do anything contingency plan. I had this when I was coaching at Sheffield Oaks a few years ago, where they did the same thing, but they split it north and south. So anything Leeds and above was in the North Conference, and anything Wakefield and below was in the South Conference. And what you did was you played each other. If you're in the South Conference, you played each other home and away in that little mini league. And then depending on where you finished, if you finished in the top half, you went through into a different league with the top half of the North. And you only played against the teams that if you were coming from the South, you'd only play against the teams from the North. You wouldn't replay the teams from your conference. Last year when they did it, they did the East-West split. So went from a league of 14 to 2 leagues of 7, but we ended up playing each other home and away twice, so 4 times in total. So I think for me the idea of putting in a second team was good because it stopped, it stopped us getting sick of having to go to the same places 4 times. It was interesting because you went into the. I'm very analytical and I'm constantly looking at things, and I looked at it and gone, oh, we're going to get stitched up here because if the first team haven't got anything to play for, they're just going to put a load of first team players in the second team, and so it was constant. I had a spreadsheet. I was looking at where every single, every time we played a second team, where was their first team playing, and then I was constantly looking at who were they playing against, how far away it was, where were they in the leagues. Because I'm thinking if it's a winner takes all game, they're not going to drop the first team players into the second team. They're going to want to take the best teams. So you were kind of sort of worried about getting stitched up, but it didn't happen. And it was really good. I think because, like I say, you got to go and play against teams that are, the clubs are competing at a higher level.
Yeah.
And, some of them, it was really good because you were playing against, fringe players and, players that are, perhaps first team players of a, League 6, level 6, and they're coming back from injury and they're getting a bit of game time in the second team. So I think having that introduction really, did certainly on quite a few occasions really give us a good test.
We definitely benefited that on the other side of it. So obviously our second teams joined the Midlands East. Northeast, Tom, was you in?
Northeast, west, I think.
And so our second team massively benefited that. They finished sort of mid-table in the end. Great start to the season, wasn't it, Tom? And then as people died in the first team, we had to fill the first team for the second teamers.
I broke my hand and then we just lost 8 on the bounce. There is genuinely the correlation.
Sadly, there was only one game while your hand was broken, though, wasn't there?
Fuck up.
But yeah, I think it's a good way of doing it. I think you're right. The conference version where you've played people 4 times, that's just not fun. Mm-hmm. There's no enjoyment in doing that. I used to hate that at like a high level when you'd play 2 games against them in the league and then 2 games against them in the cup and then potentially get them in the playoffs as well. So you could potentially play someone 6 times in a season, which was just brutal. But yeah, I think it's worked really well. I think that's one of the few things that the RFU done, which has been quite successful. Yeah. But let's not give them too much praise, otherwise they might find out.
Yeah, maybe that's the point we should stop before we get to the hour. Rob, thank you very much, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It's nice to talk to someone who's doing lots of different stuff within rugby, as opposed to just the standard like Phil does, moan at blokes on a Tuesday and a Thursday. If like Rob, you want to reach out and get on the pod, just drop us a message on Facebook like Rob did, or on Instagram, or if you have the pleasure of knowing me or Phil personally, you can get in contact us that way. But Phil, do you have any wise words to finish?
No, but maybe go look at something that Rob's dad said. He's normally quite good with his words.
Yeah, we'll just put one of the team talks on. That's fine. Cool. Right, thanks very much, all. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.